Best WrestleMania match would be Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker. Honestly, there's a lot of great
Yeah,
matches that they
you
had,
got
but
that's just number one,
to me, Shawn Michaels and
like
Undertaker,
across the board.
that there
Yeah,
was nothing else that could top that. Cause that match, I'm
I remember
so
watching that
glad
live.
I watched it on my with me and my friends. They all was sitting there and they were playing the game for a second, but then the moment that we start watching, because that was the one match that we wanted to see, Shawn versus Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
When that match happened, we all stopped what we were doing. It was like we knew that wrestling was wrestling, but that match in itself immersed us into this match.
Yeah,
And
got
even for
everybody.
the ending, after Shawn hit that moonsault and Undertaker caught him and hit that tombstone, man, a lot of us were disappointed because we really wanted Shawn to win, and we forgot that it's
Man,
scripted.
bad,
Yeah,
bad, bad. And then remember too, you got kind of nervous. Remember, Undertaker fell on his head when he did that dive
yeah.
outside the ring.
When he did that
That looked
dive outside the
crazy. I'm like,
ring,
oh, the match finna be over with this fast. Undertaker done, and he got back up. Like,
yeah, because
and
even
then,
too, listening to Chris Jericho's story with referee Tim White, because it was Deuce
mm,
that was supposed to catch him, Jimmy Snuka's son, if I'm correct, and basically he didn't catch him, and since he didn't catch him, he was
yeah,
never seen again in the WWE ring.
that's
And then at the same
that's
time, it's like,
crazy.
can you really blame him at the same time for the fact that it's a really hard dive to
Yeah,
catch? Because one, you're holding that
he was holding
camera,
the camera.
and then you got to make sure you're
Started
at that
grabbing you.
spot, and then you got to catch him at the same time.
And you gotta look the part. You can't look like you're just waiting for your spot neither. Like, oh
Right,
yeah, I gotta go stand here so I can catch the Undertaker. So you can't just so. And then you got Sean pulling you. Then you gotta drop the camera,
right.
catch a 7 foot, 300 pound man, and do.
And then
And
if you
Undertaker fall on
drop the
his head.
camera, that's a lot of money that you're dropping anyway. And then if you drop it and then try
Mm-hmm.
to catch Undertaker, and if Undertaker falls on that, you're gonna be in trouble.
There was a lot of ways that could have just went wrong, and it happened to go right. So
It did.
we are blessed. Let's see that. That was magnificent. That was a magnificent match.
And
It
I
probably
was,
is the GOAT. That probably is the greatest.
yeah,
That's
that,
easy. I think that's just universal. I remember just finishing that match. I was like, yeah, that might be the greatest wrestling match I ever seen.
yeah. And I'm so glad because even to, I would say
Hmm.
after that match, I would say that match for me is number one. But the second match would be Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. When Ric Flair retired,
That was emotional.
that one was,
Yeah,
man. And
that
when he
was
said,
emotional.
sorry, I love. Yo, what pissed me off about that match, it wasn't that match in particular. It was just what happened at my party that I had. So after he lost, me and my boys, we were just like, man, put a tear in our eye because it's like, it's the final match that we saw from Ric Flair. This kid that my mom invited,
Oh, you thought?
unfortunately, and he did. This kid was like, "Yeah, that's what you get, Ric Flair. Yeah, yeah." We all stopped and looked at him. He was like, "Yeah, motherfucker, yeah." Everybody stopped and looked at him and said, "What is this kid on? Is he serious? Why is he here?" Because already nobody liked him from the start. And we're saying, "Yo, this is Ric Flair. This is his
I'm weak.
retirement match. This is his last match." It was like,
It's Ric Flair, man.
yeah, we're like, "Yo, it's Ric Flair. Don't do that." He was like, so. At this point, we had to kick him out. We told him go home.
He been real disrespectful. He been real disrespectful. Come
We
on.
call his family and said, "Yo, pick him up."
I'm trying. What's my favorite WrestleMania match? It is a lot. I have a favorite WrestleMania quote, and I say this quote every day. I don't know why. It's from WrestleMania 7 or 8, whatever match it was. Roddy Piper versus Bret Hart when Bret Hart won the IC title.
Yeah.
And at one point in the match, Bret Hart has this no, Roddy Piper's fighting his duality between being a good guy and bad guy, and you just hear Bobby Heenan out of nowhere say, "What the hell? Use the bell." And I say that quote every day. I don't know why I say that every day, but whenever I start thinking about something, I'd be like, "Yo, what the hell? Use the bell." I say that every day.
I would say even with that, if there's one phrase that I remember, is it's a promo that came out before I get to the other favorite matches of WrestleMania, but I think it was either WrestleMania 19 or 20. So it was basically about like the showcase of Immortals, and I really hope that they bring this back too, because it was like they all were talking about how important WrestleMania is and what it meant to them. So there was a part where Chris Jericho, he was like, WrestleMania is a chance to live forever. And then they talked about, even with Booker T, he was like, well, it's the Super Bowl of professional wrestling. And Brock Lesnar was like, it's the tournament of all tournaments. So basically they were promoting it as like, this is the end all be all. Even with Vince McMahon, when it says that where it all begins again, I would love to have those promos like that for WrestleMania. If they could do that again, that would be fantastic. There was another match. I would say it'll be a two-parter. It'll be a two-parter. So, WrestleMania 20, when Eddie Guerrero retained his championship against Kurt Angle, and when Chris Benoit won his championship against Triple H and Shawn Michaels. I mean, granted, for what happened afterwards, it sucks, but just seeing that match in particular, and then when it was all over, and Eddie and Chris Benoit standing in the ring, and they embrace as champions, I was like, this one is fantastic. Because from the start, you had Chris Benoit preparing for the biggest championship of his lifetime. Eddie Guerrero right there with his championship belt comes up. They're screaming at each other, but the fact that Eddie is trying to hype him up to get ready because this is the biggest match of his life. Then that main event, and then he won, and then him and Eddie celebrated together. But the best part about it was like Eddie didn't stay there for too long. He left just to let him like shine and soak up the moment that he had. And I said, man, I'm glad that I have that DVD. I made sure because that was like the biggest pay-per-view that I wanted to watch, and I didn't get a chance to see it. But I have that one at my house.
My thing with that one has always been, was that match really that good, or do we just remember that moment after the match? Because I remember watching that live, and I always thought it was like cool, and I still couldn't believe Chris Benoit won. I wanted Shawn Michaels to win, but what's the name? Eddie and Kurt was by far. Honestly, that night, and y'all probably crucify me for this, but John Cena vs. Big Show was my favorite match on the card. The opening of the show.
I mean, hey, the fact that John Cena picked him up and then FU'd him and won the U.S. Championship, dog, that was insane.
That was great. I was hyped. I remember, boy. I was hyped for that. I mean, and then too, like I said, I'm a big Psycho Sid fan. I remember as a kid, Chris Benoit beat Sid and left the next night, and I ain't like that. Seriously, you gotta tell me to get over stuff. I don't get over nothing. I've been mad at that since I think that might have happened in '99. It is 2026. I'm still upset. There's no way Chris Benoit was supposed to beat Sid Vicious. I don't care what y'all say. That's just me. I ain't never like it. I ain't never like Chris Benoit couldn't cut a promo. I ain't like, he was always okay to me, man. He always, like, me personally. Crippler was cool. Like when he was beefing with Raven a little bit back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I'd rather have Daniel Bryan if I had to choose.
Daniel Bryan?
Especially if we're going with that type of wrestler. I'd rather have Daniel Bryan over Chris Benoit.
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
if we going
think
that type
about
of
that.
wrestler,
But
I'd rather have Yo, I'd rather have Bryan Danielson.
Man, I'll say if Chris Benoit was still alive, Daniel Bryan versus Chris Benoit, that would be a match to see.
Would be.
That would be a match.
I still got. I feel like we seen it though, because it would look like the Chris Benoit versus Bret Hart match, but you know, I still would rather have Daniel Bryan. That's just me.
I would say another match in particular too. I was like, it was my first exposure to wrestling. So it was a VHS tape that my uncle had. So he recorded all the wrestling matches. It was like a compilation of matches that he had. And the first one that I saw,
Uncle had one of them too.
Yeah, dude, I would say the first one that I saw, I'll never forget. Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon at WrestleMania for the Unified IC Championships. Dude, let me tell you.
You know, was your introduction?
That was my introduction. Because when I saw Shawn Michaels come out, man, I was like, oh, this dude, why is he dancing like that? But he's kind of cool. And then,
How old were you? So this was like your first wrestling match?
First wrestling match that I saw. And when I saw Razor Ramon come out, and he went underneath the ladder just like with his swag, I was like, yo, who is this guy? It's cool. So even when he had the toothpick, Kane just... And when I was going to church, I would take the toothpicks, just do what Razor Ramon would do. Just, I get in trouble a lot because, one, I was mimicking some of the wrestlers, and then I end up hitting somebody in the face with it. But I'm like, no, you deserve it. But yeah, and just watching that match, and then the next WrestleMania match after that, after seeing Razor Ramon won, because he recorded more matches, and the next one was Men on a Mission. So...
Damn.
Yeah, it was Men on a Mission. Yes.
Thermo.
Yup. That was the next one, that tag team match, and they won theirs. And I think all this was in
like 22 at that time.
Mm-hmm. So
Mabel just looked old. Like, that was a big dude.
He was huge. And even then, before he passed away, it was just like he's still the same. He's still the same height, same size. So
Daddy V. But like he was still, I think he was like maybe 40 something, bro. Young as I don't know what.
Dog. And then I remember because when they won their match, I was like, oh, these guys are pretty good. And then my exposure to there was another WrestleMania match. So this one was for the WWF title. I thought Bret Hart was so cool because it was Bret Hart and Lex Luger versus Yokozuna. So it was that one, and they did a hit.
What was that? 10? Was that WrestleMania 10? Yeah,
I think it was because they had simultaneously fell.
Bret versus Owen.
Yeah,
and Yoko wrestled Lex, and then Bret wrestled Lex in the main event and won. Yup. And the ladder matchup. Yup, WrestleMania 10. We're right.
Yep.
Now for me, my introduction to pro wrestling was WCW. I was watching TV because wrestling is just big in my household. So wrestling was on TV, and lo and behold, Chris Jericho was doing the Man of 1,000 and what was it, 1,004 holds? Because Dave Malenko is the Man of 1,000 holds.
Yeah, Christian.
It went to commercial break, and I'll never forget this. They came back from commercial break, and Chris Jericho was still on the TV. Like, that never happened. I remember it's just like a kid. I don't know why. That blew my mind, and I thought it was just hilarious that every other word was like, arm bar. He would just say something crazy and be like, arm drag, arm bar. Like, I just thought that was hilarious. I was like, yo, I like this wrestling thing. So then, I don't know, I might have went to the Scope first and seen Big Show with a giant at the time. He caught Rey Mysterio. It was at World War III. He caught him and he held him up like this and then threw him out. And ever since then, like, not even just being a wrestler, like, I told myself, I'm going to be, like, my life goal was just to be a big man. Not like most people say I want to be a fireman, police. And I said, I'm going to grow up and I want to be a big man. And that's at 4 years old. I remember saying that to myself. And there's no way I was gonna be under 6 feet. Put that out in the universe. That wasn't gonna happen, Jack. 6'3". 225 pounds now. A slim 225. I feel good about that.
That's good.
Finally out the 230s.